Well, fancy meeting you here. How do you know you're in simpatico with your executive producer of your radio show when you don't know which opener he's going to use, and the message on your whiteboard is reflective of the opener used? That's how you know. You'll have to find out what the message on the whiteboard says by heading over to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch, any of our SuperTalk TV platforms, and you can find it there. Hello and a good afternoon. It's 12:05. My name is Matt Murphy. It is Tuesday, July 11th, 2023. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way, and we'll get to the meat and the potatoes of the radio broadcast. It's episode 373 of our time together on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. You can find us on a variety of platforms, primarily on the FM radio, 99.7 on your FM dial. You can also find us streaming on a variety of different applications. And, of course, the aforementioned Talk TV, where you find the F&M Bank chat line, where you may chat at your leisure. You can talk amongst yourselves. You can wag your finger at me. You can chat toward me. You can agree with me. That'll get you to the front of the line. Actually, disagreement gets you to the front of the line. Anything you want to do over there on the F&M Bank chat line, you're invited to do so. You can also super text the show, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. That super text line is also available for actual telephone conversation. Believe it or not, that's right. You can pick up the phone and talk to yours truly, Matt Murphy, at least until 3 o'clock. When I make way for the drive with Brian Wilson. It is a full complement of live and local conversation every single day, information fueled and opinion driven on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. And those are the pleasantries. Now, Belle, I have a question for you, and really for anyone watching on Talk TV. I was going to pose this to Mac Morey as well, but he's off on his lunch break. He'll be back sometime in the 1 o'clock hour to continue his news duties. I'm not going to name names. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I just have a sincere question. Now, you saw me yesterday. For those of you who watched, you can find it on SuperTalk TV, on the Facebook page. I mean, anywhere you want to find yesterday's show, you can find yesterday's show. If you've not seen me, I was in my green shirt, and it's what is key is that you remember how long my hair was.
I don't, though, because you're talking to me, and
well, I mean, yes,
you've never had long hair as far as I'm concerned.
I get that, but just basically remembering the basic length. It was getting a little over the ears. It was getting kind of. The wife says I look a little like Waylon Jennings when it gets that long. So
what's wrong with that?
Now, I find nothing wrong with that. But I've got a speaking engagement tomorrow night, more on that a little later on in the show, at the Williamson County Public Library, and anyone's invited. It's an open format. You don't come for me, you come for Jill Savage of the Blaze, but I'll be there too, right? It's with the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition. So I decided to slip on off to the local barbershop and have myself a trim. And once again, I want to just really focus on the fact that I'm not hating on my man, Chuck. I think there was a disconnect because what I said when he sat me down in the chair was, I just want a short trim just to shape it up and make it look a little less untidy, but I don't want a lot of length off it. That's exactly what I said.
Now you're bald.
Well, I'm not bald, but I mean, I feel like he got more than he should have. I think he got more than that. I don't think that's a trim.
No, that's not a trim. That's a
haircut.
That's a big haircut.
That's a big time haircut. So
what's his name?
His name's Chuck.
Chuck.
Nice guy.
We got to talk.
But I made a point the first time I went to Chuck. And Chuck is a part of a larger joint over in Mount Juliet, which I love. By the way, free plug, Brian's Man Cave. Great place. Great place. Love Brian, love the Man Cave. But I'm not hating on Chuck when I say that I think Chuck and I have a different definition of short trim.
That's why you always got to be very specific about those things, because one man's long is another man's.
See, I thought I was. That's why I bring it up on the show. I thought that I was clear. I sat down and he said, "What am I doing today?" And I said, "Well, I just want to shape it up. I don't want a lot of length off of it. I just want a short trim and make it tidy.
You were using the same words, but not speaking the same language.
I guess so. Oh, well. But what do you do? So while he was cutting, and this happened, while he was cutting my hair, I knew he was cutting too much hair off.
Why don't you say something?
What am I supposed to say? He's
too much. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, slow down.
So I should say that?
You think I wouldn't?
I feel weird about that. I feel weird about interrupting someone and being rude.
So if you took your car to the shop and you saw him putting the wrong tires on, you just let him do it?
No, that's different.
No, it's not.
He can't put the tires back if he's already cut.
But you can stop him from going further with it. That he needs to know that so he understands how you like it. He would tell you that.
You're right. You're right. I mean, you're right. I figured I would just catch him next time around and say, Chuck, make a joke about it. Say, Chuck, last time around, you almost killed me. You almost cut my head off. You cut so much hair. I don't know. I don't know what I'll say to him, but I'll say something to him. But it's weird how in certain situations I just get quiet and let things happen. I do this in restaurants, and it is counter to what you would believe. If you listen to me for 3 hours on the radio from noon until 3, you would think that I'm the biggest jerk on the face of the planet. I'm really not. I'm close.
No, you're not even close.
But you know what I do?
You try to pretend you're a badass, but you're not.
I know. And I let things happen around me, and I just let it go, and I figure it'll work itself out, and I don't want to cause any trouble. I don't want to be that person.
You know what? If the man was throwing you a freebie or he was plying his trade at no charge, that would be one thing. But when somebody is providing you a service that you're paying for, you have a right to communicate the way you expect that service to be provided.
I get it. I felt odd about it. I almost said something, and I said, well, he's done one side of my head already. I mean, I don't know that he can go back and glue it back on. Just kind of the way I felt about it. It'll grow back, I thought to myself, as he cut off too much hair. So I got that going on. And we can all identify with that. I feel like we can all identify with the bad haircut. I mean, it's not a bad haircut. I don't know. Chuck, you didn't give me a bad haircut. Brian, nobody go to Brian's man cave and tell him that I had a bad haircut. I did not. Chuck just took off a little more than I thought he would. That's all. But great place, by the way. And it's the only barbershop that I know of that has a toolbox like on the bed of your truck. They have toolboxes to sit on while you wait for your haircut. And believe it or not, it's pretty cool. So there you go. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number as we get into the content of the radio broadcast. I have a pickleball discussion to take up from this morning's text message to Dan Mandis. I want to know when we're doing this thing. Apparently, Mandis is like in some sort of private lesson session, still continues to try to make the listeners of Nashville Morning News believe that I was at pickleball camp last week, which is not true. It was more of a training immersion experience with the pickleball. By the way, thank you to our listener, Jason, who sent me a pickleball shirt. I think I have that right. Jason sent me a nice pickleball shirt that I'll be wearing during our contest of skill if Dan Mandis ever gets it scheduled. And hopefully will be scheduled so as to announce it. My goal is to push Mandis into an announcement on July 26th when we all get together. Where's my sign? Oh, no. How am I supposed to remember where we're going if I don't have my sign? It's at the J Korean Grill and Bar?
In Hendersonville.
In Hendersonville. See, I remembered it. I'm proud of myself. I'll be there. Dan Mandis will be there. Brian Wilson will be there. Other special guests, Pamela Furr, Johnny B., and you. Hopefully go to 997WTN.com to sign up for updates. Okay, so I want to put two subjects that seem to have nothing to do with one another together. And the first I saw on some news network last evening involving Senator Chuck Schumer. Senator Chuck Schumer and other Democrats have decided that they've tackled all of the important issues. And so, or maybe this is the most important issue. We've gotten our debt under control. No problems there. We've given all the money that we've got to Ukraine and more. The federal government is spending money hand over fist. The Biden administration's absolutely out of control. We don't know who's running the hen house over there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has decided that he is going to tackle the real issues. And the real issue, according to Chuck Schumer, is energy drinks. Chuck Schumer yesterday calling for the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to investigate the, quote, high caffeine content of Prime energy drinks, which he claims are being targeted to children as one of the summer's hottest beverages for kids. Well, if it's that hot, I mean, no kids are going to drink it. Touch your lips. Ooh, it's too hot. This needs to go in a fridge. I joke. Schumer said cans of Prime energy drink contain more than double the caffeine of a can of Red Bull and 6 times more caffeine than a can of Coca-Cola. He warned parents the drink is gaining popularity on social media. The company does not recommend the drinks for anyone under the age of 18, according to information on the cans themselves and on its website. Schumer claimed marketing for the beverage is tempting for minors. Speaking at a news conference Sunday afternoon, Schumer said, quote, this stuff called Prime, just 12 ounces. Prime has an eye-popping level of caffeine that's giving parents and doctors the jitters for the kids that are targets. Here's the other problem. Most parents haven't even heard of this stuff that their kids are begging for. Prime is born on the reels of social media and the enigmatic world of influencers. Kids see it on their phones as they scroll, and then they actually have a need for it, said Schumer.
Oh, I know what to do. I
have ideas, too. What do you think? What do you think we should do, Bill?
You pass a law, because that's how we got kids to not drink. It's how we got them to not smoke. It's how we got them to not do the pot.
Mm-hmm.
We just need laws.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. These are the same people. This is the same political party that believes in chopping the testicles off of little boys if they ask for it. Now,
but you can't have caffeine.
Now, I say that in that way intentionally, guys. I want to make sure that we all clearly understand what we're dealing with here. The same political party that believes that a 13 or 14-year-old girl, if she desires it, should have her breasts removed and should be given puberty blockers without regard for not only what society says about this or the long-term consequences, but even without regard for what her parents think about it. If you don't think the federal government and the Democrats, more particularly within the federal government, if you don't think that they're coming after your kids, you're fooling yourself. I'm not worried about trans people coming after my kids. I'm worried about the government coming after my kids. In every major modern totalitarian society, they take over the raising of your kids because they can't have you influencing how they want your little automatons to become. So I want to compare what Chuck Schumer said about the Prime movement with why the transgender issues have gotten to the point that they've gotten to, and it all has to do with parents not wanting to be parents. What happened to parents making these decisions? For goodness sake. My grandma told me when I was allowed to have Pepsi-Cola, no Coca-Cola allowed in my grandma's house, by the way. Hard and fast rule. And I'm a Pepsi man to this day as a result. I like a Diet Mountain Dew or a Mountain Dew Zero. Like me a Pepsi Zero. I'm not a Coke guy. I know I'm from Georgia. I should have been a Coke guy, but nope. My grandpa walked around the yard when I was a youngster singing the song. You know, Pepsi-Cola hits the spot, 12 full ounces, that's a lot. Twice as much for a nickel, too. Pepsi-Cola is the one for you. And when I had had enough Pepsi-Cola, my grandmother amazingly understood this because I was getting the caffeine jitters and shut me down. Similarly, if your 12-year-old asks for a Red Bull, you say no. Why do you need government intervention for this? Is there any wonder that the government has begun treating adults like children? When here we are, broad swaths of the American public demanding that the government take over the raising of our children? I mean, what do you think public education is to begin with? And a lot of parents, they just say, oh, well, hands off. Government's taking care of all of that for me. Don't worry about that anymore. Yes, I'm wagging my finger at you parents to a certain degree, and I'm wondering where you are on this. Why would you acquiesce in this way? And some of you, well, we don't know what our kids are doing. You better know what your kids are doing. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's tough to be a parent nowadays. What with the internet? I can't imagine being a parent nowadays with the internet. But I know parents that don't allow their kids on the internet. I know parents that actually monitor the intake of their kids with regard to what junk food they're having. I mean, remember when New York did the huge no sugar push, and one of the ways that they tried to push it off on the people of New York and the United States of America was we're trying to save the children. Isn't it all about it's always about that, isn't it? My goodness, Matt. All we're trying to do is save the children, love the children, hug the children. You know what I say? Screw the children.
And you're trying to kill them if you don't agree with us.
Yeah. And the only pushback is to say, screw the kids. I'm for liberty. I'm for freedom. 1221 Super Talk 99.7 WTN, just getting underway this lunchtime hour. Would love to hear from you. Drew wants to talk haircuts. Kevin wants to talk parenting. And I'll talk to both of you next on Super Talk. Hey, gang, the Honda, I do this all the time. I don't know why. Well, it's because of my Birmingham roots. I don't know why. And it's the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. And I'm going to say it 14 times so I can galvanize it in my head and yours. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. They have Hondas. I mean, they do have Honda automobiles. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is in Nashville, August 4th through the 6th. And if it's not news to me, it might be news to you. On sale right now, 3-day tickets, premium hospitality still available for the one-of-a-kind must-attend event. It's going to be the party of the season. Brought to you by Big Machine, and the Music City Grand Prix is coursing through the streets of Nashville at sometimes almost 200 miles per hour. New for 2023, Saturday night racing. Plus, they have a family fun zone. They have an earlier start for Sunday, an 11:30 start. If you've never experienced open-wheel racing before, you've maybe seen it on television. Now it's time to see it downtown on the streets of beautiful Nashville. You'll experience all Nashville has to offer, from food and trucks and restaurants and honky-tonks and, yes, racing. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. I say the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Tickets on sale right now. Get amped up for it. MusicCityGP.com. MusicCityGP.com. You know, sadly, it is a reality that the money that you spend on some bigger corporations, particularly, a lot of that money, not all of it, but a lot of that money goes into woke business concepts or wokeness like DEI. And you want to avoid spending the money where it's going to funnel into some of these woke policies or this woke propaganda. Well, now I have an alternative when it comes to your mobile phone. It is Patriot Mobile. Big mobile companies are no different when it comes to woke policies. For years, they've been dumping millions into leftist causes. It's time to take a stand for free speech, religious freedom, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life. And at Patriot Mobile, you're doing just that. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, offering dependable nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks, so you get the best possible service in your area without the woke politics and for the lowest possible price. Their U.S.-based customer service team is ready to talk with you. And when you talk with them, use the offer code Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y, free activation with that offer code M-U-R-P-H-Y when you call 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT, or online at patriotmobile.com/Murphy. The same great coverage, your same phone number, and take a stand for your values with Patriot Mobile. Kathy writes in on the super text line. By the way, Matt Murphy and you, thank you for being around. 615-737-9986. By the way, before I get too far away from it, at Des Dickerson, there's an announcement coming tomorrow morning at 8:30, right? And I believe, well, can I say that it has something to do with 9 to noon? I guess I can say that. I believe that I can say it has something to do with 9 to noon.
No, you can't.
Well, I just did, and that is that's rough.
Can't take that back.
Going to have to push that toothpaste back in that tube. So at 8:30 tomorrow morning on Nashville's Morning News, we will learn a few things together. But in the meantime, can I just say how cool Des Dickerson is? I mean, and he's got 100.
Awesome.
He's got 167 things going, and
such a nice guy too.
And what an incredible guy. He's exactly what you would want someone like that to be when you meet him.
It's so weird to hang out and just have a conversation with him too, because I remember being like that 13-year-old kid sitting on the living room floor watching MTV and seeing him in Prince videos.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And now he's here in our studio on a regular basis, and I get to talk to him. And I told him this morning during the transition that one of these days I was going to fashion myself to be as cool, maybe a 10th or 100th as cool as he is, because he's as cool as the other side of the pillow. And I told him this too, Bell. I said, you know, you made Bell K's world when you allowed him to touch that guitar.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. He brought in the guitar he used in the Prince videos for me to take a picture with.
Was that just his standard player?
He said that he has two guitars that he'll never get rid of, and that's one of them because it's just everything he needs it to be.
Hey, speaking of pretty cool, I didn't mention this story yesterday, and I know we've got a couple online, and you guys hang in there. I'm going to get to you, I promise. So during my time away from the radio last week, we had a lot of in-laws, and we had Erica's mother and father, and then Erica's 2 of her aunts, 1 of her uncles, and their spouses. So there were 10 total in town. But before we got all of them in town, it was just myself and my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my wife. We went to a place in Hendersonville, a seafood joint right there on Old Hickory Lake. You can figure out where it is. If they advertised with me, I'd give them a plug right now, but they don't, so I won't. But they don't need the advertising. They're always packed. And so we're sitting there in the bar area, and in walks a couple. And I will say a quote-unquote older couple, although they looked great. They looked absolutely fabulous. And they sat down fairly near us. And if you follow me on social media, you can go and find this photo that I posted. It is the ultimate photo bomb. And my wife says, that guy is somebody. And I can't figure out who it is. And I'm like, I'm not sure who you're talking about. And we studied on it, and she finally said, I think that's T.G. Shepherd. Now, I played a lot of T.G. Shepherd music back in the day when I started at WTHO, your better country FM, 101.7 on the FM dial. 3,000-watt blowtorch in Thompson, Georgia. Started at that radio station in 1988 when I was 15 years old. And T.G. Shepherd was a hot commodity on the radio back then, and he was for many years to come. And I looked up a recent picture, and I said, my goodness gracious, I think you're right. I think that's T.G. Shepherd. And she said, we should say hello. And I said, no. I said, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be those people. And the wife said, well, what's wrong with it? And I said, well, you know what? You should go over as we're leaving and just tell him that you appreciate his music. And she said, you want me to? You dare me to? And I said, sure. And so she did.
Dare you to?
I mean, you know what I'm saying. And T.G. Shepherd and his wife could not have been finer people. I mean, they were really wonderful to sit and talk with us for. I mean, my goodness, over 5, almost 10 minutes we sat and talked with them. And they were just good folks. And he said he'll come on the radio show, which is kind of cool.
There's something weird about that, too, because like I told you, I ran into him on my flight back from Dallas in March. And with all the country music stars that exist in this city, we both run into the same guy.
That is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He and his wife, Kelly Lang, who has been around the music industry forever as well, just good folks. They live up in Hendersonville, and they were out to eat, and they were just so kind. We didn't want to bother them, but I just wanted to say, sometimes you meet those folks and you're disappointed because it's pretty much a leave me alone type situation, but sometimes you meet them and they're just as gracious as they can possibly be. And I told him I had a little radio show in town, and he said, yeah, one of these Thursday, Fridays or whatnot, he'd be happy to come on and talk about his musical career and what he's got going on now. I mean, he's still blowing and going. He's still going to music concerts.
Did you get his
and
contact info?
I did, as a matter of fact.
We'll send that to me.
I got his business manager, and we'll set it up. So I thought it was pretty cool. Met T.G. Shepherd. That's kind of nice. 12:32, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll meet you on the phone lines right after this on Super Talk. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here, and, it is hot, and you expect it to be hot this time of year. After all, it's summertime. I told you it was coming. I told you needed to invite Jeff Eddy out to your home. Many of you did. I heard from many of you that said Efficient came out. They gave me the maintenance call for less than $125. We got all of our units taken care of. Everything was A-OK. We got the thumbs up from the fine technicians at Efficient Heating and Cooling, and we're ready to go, according to Jeff Eddy, and that's good for you. But if you've not done that and your AC is not running as it should, if you're not able to get it to a comfortable temperature, even in the heat of the day, you should be able to get it down to a reasonable temperature within your home. Maybe you need a second opinion about something you've been told by someone else and you're not really sure if they're telling you the accurate information. Well, allow Jeff Eddy to step in and give you that second opinion with Efficient Heating and Cooling. They're never going to charge you overtime. They never do that to you because they know your air conditioner has no idea what time it is when it goes kaput, when it goes, as I like to say. And if that happens to you, call Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling and let him come out. They have free financing if you need a new unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with the Ream. Call today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here. I want a moment to tell you about my experience with Kraft Body Scan. They've been doing CT and body scans for a while now all across the United States, and Kraft has just opened a location in Nashville, and it's so important. I mean, we sometimes have a tendency, and I understand it's called whistling past the graveyard. You don't want to believe that there's a problem until you can no longer ignore that there's a problem right in front of you. And oftentimes we wait too long to check and make sure that our bodies are okay. Did you know that with a Kraft Body Scan, they can identify issues within your body long before those issues are going to present themselves as symptoms? It's so important with so many different types of issues in your body. I mean, we've all heard that, for example, colorectal cancer is eminently survivable if you catch it early enough, which is why colonoscopies are so important. Well, a lot of folks don't do colonoscopies because they don't want to have to deal with the thing up the only. Well, you don't have to do that. There's a colon scan that does the same thing as a colonoscopy, except you don't have to deal with all of the up the where and the what. Well, ask them about it, and they'll tell you the where and the what when you make the call to Kraft Body Scan. And right now, heart and lung scans for a couple, $149, which is an incredible savings. That's less than $75 a piece for the couple. And you can pick anybody. You can pick your brother if you want to. But largely, these are husband and wife couples. So $149 couple scan right now, craftbodyscan.com. Spell it with a C, craftbodyscan.com, or 615-436-1000. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am saddened that I spoke so long that both of my callers went away. I apologize. I made you hold for a long time. Give us a call back, 615-737-9986. That's a bad host. Bad host. Bad host.
It's almost like you think this show's about you talking.
I know.
Craziness.
Super text line up and running as well, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. We usually get there by boat. We were there on opening day. We're there at least once a week, says 6255 about the seafood restaurant I referenced. How long have they been open? Probably 8-10 years, something like that. I've been going since I was at the Grand Old RV Resort Convalescence Home and Bat Meat Market in beautiful Goodlettsville. Hair, I get it now. I just walked by my car, and that's the first thing I heard. Context matters. One man's long is another man's short. I guess this is a caller that overheard you saying something, and they thought it was nasty. Jason says, Kraft Body Scan, well worth the money. Amen, Jason. Hope everything worked out for you. I know that you had the body scan, and I encourage a lot of people to get the body scan as well. Okay, Tim Burchett will be on the show at 2:15 to talk about his belief in UFOs and what we know about the American government's knowledge about what has been in our skies and exactly what it is and what it constitutes. We also will welcome Aaron Gulbranson of the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition in the 1 o'clock hour as well, 12:39. So the basic concept of communism, of centralized government control. You can call it communism. Socialism is an offshoot. We can talk about the subtle differences between those two, but there's very, very little. I mean, you couldn't slide a piece of paper between the two concepts. Both of them have to do with totalitarian control from a centralized government. It is a do as we say, not a do as we do. They believe that the individuals that they govern are not citizens with individual rights, but subjects of the state, and are to be not governed necessarily, but ruled. It is born out of this concept, the idea that it would be the government's job to tell you what you may or may not consume within your own body. I believe that I own me. The reason that I describe myself as a libertarian with a small L, I am not a Republican. I've never been a Republican. And I never will be a Republican. I don't belong to the Libertarian Party because that's how much I believe in the libertarian philosophy of government. Because I'm not going to belong to a libertarian party that expects me to follow the herd on certain issues involving foreign policy and other matters. I won't get into them now. But I believe in that basic philosophy of government, that the free market will work most issues that it needs to work out. And that invariably government involvement in any dynamic makes it worse in almost every circumstance, outside of some basic governing that avoids falling into anarchy, like border security. I mean, the irony is not lost on me that one of the basic foundational building blocks of a government, and one of the very few that I would grant to the federal government is choosing not to do anything with it right now. They just ignore one of their fundamental responsibilities, and that is protecting American sovereignty by protecting Americans' borders. All that to say, it is a dangerous concept to suggest the government should control what your kids consume. But yet, over the weekend, Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader in the United States Senate, was suggesting that the government has to step in through the FDA and put some sort of rules or regulations regarding how much caffeine a product may have in it. And they cite all of these studies, and they went after one particular energy drink called Prime, but they could have gone after any number of energy drinks. I'm old enough to remember, do you remember Jolt Cola? I used to love Jolt Cola. All the sugar, twice the caffeine was their tagline. Or maybe it was twice the sugar, all the caffeine. One way or the other, it was like a little mini rush that you got if you drank a Jolt Cola. I'm not saying these things are good for you. And largely, consuming massive amounts of caffeine is not good for you. But is that not for you to decide? Of course, the Food and Drug Administration says, 400 milligrams of caffeine a day for healthy adults is, quote, not generally associated with dangerous negative effects. 400 milligrams of caffeine. I'll tell you this, if there's anything that I'm truly addicted to, it's caffeine. What about you, Bell? You have a caffeine addiction?
Yeah, absolutely. That's and I go back and forth. Sometimes I get away from it and I don't drink caffeine at all. But if I'm addicted to anything, it's definitely caffeine. Because if I start drinking it, I drink it a lot.
Prime Energy contains about 200 milligrams of caffeine per 12-ounce can. Prime Energy is not recommended for children under the ages of 18, women who are pregnant or nursing, or individuals who are sensitive to caffeine. And I understand some are more sensitive than others, and some can have I've known people, they have a cup of coffee and they're fine, but they have one little half a cup more, they got the jitters. And that's just not me. And I know you somewhat become immune to it, but this idea that the government should step in and protect the children in the absence of the parents? What happened to parenting? And it occurred to me as I'm thinking about this last night, watching old Chuck Schumer on my television. This is why government has felt the need to step in and do something about permanent life-altering surgeries that are being allowed by parents who I don't believe understand the ultimate consequences of their actions. Now, some of these parents might have their hearts in the right place. I'm talking about kids who are 12 or 13 that have transgender type, mutilation type surgeries on their bodies that are irreversible. And they do so confident in their decision making because organizations with PhD or MD or government.gov behind their names have told them that it's okay. And these organizations have zero evidence, long-term evidence, to back that up. Zero. In the meantime, Bernard is next in Columbia. Hello, Bernard. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the show.
I am doing incredible, and first of all, let me tell you how much I love the show and how much on point I think that you gentlemen are.
Well, thank you.
But
Thank you.
I want to back up a second and just talk about Des Dickerson. I want to echo everything that you said about him, and he was a big influence on me coming up as a young rock musician, and I actually used to mimic myself on him a lot, the way he dressed. And we're talking about when I was in 19 to 25-year-old touring musician. And did I ever, in my wildest dreams, imagine that, at my current age, he's one of my dear friends, and he's actually my neighbor. So he lives 2 doors down from me. And he is absolutely a world changer. I never, when you have a perception of a rock star like that, and you think of the fame and the glory and the money and the girls and the partying, he blew me away when I met him because I wasn't expecting that intellectual side to him, how smart he is.
Mm-hmm.
It just almost didn't – it's very uncanny. But it was just fun hearing you talk about him, and we try to meet up every couple of weeks, and he's always into something. And to think you've got a guy that's opened up for the Stones, and the solo he did on Little Red Corvette is the number 7th ranked guitar solo by Guitar Player magazine of all songs. Just what an icon.
And the idea that God put in the same person that level of talent on the guitar, that level of talent regarding all of his stage presence, and for him to have the ability to offer 3 hours of incredibly compelling, thought-provoking talk radio where he goes deep into some of these issues, well-thought-out issues. And I'll say this, too, Bernard, while we're singing those praises. It is not necessarily an easy thing to maintain a clear mind about where you are grounded in terms of your personal values in that world that he was in for so long. And some of the epiphanies that he's talked about he's had regarding his religious faith are just mind-blowing.
He's a little bit older than me, but I truly believe that we probably have lived during the greatest time to live of humanity. And let me tell you why. I can remember when the rivers and streams were pretty clean. I can remember being able to go off on my own without somebody worrying about being kidnapped. I can remember a lot of things that are unheard of today in the way we saw technology start. We saw it grow to where we are. We lived through some of the greatest mindsets from John F. Kennedy to Marilyn, Monroe, which is a little bit back from where I was, to some of the world leaders, to Elvis, to Michael Jackson, to Prince. I often ask myself, well, God, why did you allow me to live during the greatest time? I can't think of another period of time that I would want to have my lifespan on. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, there are portions of the Renaissance. I mean, we all have, and I don't want to get too deep here, Bernard, but you inspire me to go there.
Go.
The world is such an immense place. And when you combine the enormity of the world that we live in with the amount of time that mankind has been here, then comparatively speaking, you can begin to feel very small given our allotment of, about 80 years of a slice of that. And if you take those 80 years and even extend, back 3 or 4 or 5,000, and you just put us that 80-year slice of time anywhere you want on that timeline. I mean, obviously, we've advanced to the point where you wouldn't want to live 100 or 500 or 1,000 years ago just because of the modern advancements. Of course, what they didn't know doesn't hurt them from back then. I wonder where we go from here. I mean, I'm 50, almost 50. I'll be 50 September 1st. And so, I got about 30 or whatever years left in my little slice of this earth. And I'm wondering where we go from here. I'm wondering if things will turn a corner and get better, or if they will continue to descend into what seems to be nowadays a certain level of madness.
Yeah, and the media doesn't help us. Technology doesn't help us. I remember 25 years ago sitting in La Jolla, California, watching the sun go down with one of the world's greatest scientists of the time. And at that time, we were just getting into the flip phones. And he pulled that phone out, and he told me, he said, everything's going right here, Bernard. Music, banking, he predicted everything that he told me that day has come true. He even predicted storms were going to go to another level. And this is before Katrina or any of that stuff. I would be afraid. Unfortunately, he's not with us right now. But the insight that guy had, I would be afraid to sit down with him again and get the next prediction. One of the companies I deal with is mentoring young people, okay? And I can tell you that they're confused, When they're in school, I had one client I can remember, she wanted to change her name to a boy's name because she was having gender issues. And then the deeper that I delved into that situation, I found out it was almost cool in high school if you were mixed gender. I said, really? And then it would come to find out she was just trying to be cooler in her capacity in the ranks of her friends.
And that goes back to the argument that I'm making about parents not being parents. And I want to hear from parents, especially those parents who might push back a little bit on that, because you see the percentages of individuals identifying not as the percentages of individuals identifying as gay hasn't really changed in the last 20 years. The percentage of individuals identifying as gender fluid or transgender has gone up astronomically over the last 20 years, far greater than could be explained by these people just coming out of the closet and being willing to speak to it. And that lends itself to me to it being the cool, hip thing and teenagers wanting to be involved in it. And a lot of these parents, I'm sad to say, are just going along with it. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand why they would do that. Bernard, I got to scoot. I'm being told that we must do this. I appreciate the call. It was a very, very good one. And please call again. It's 53 after the hour on Super Talk. I've had the pleasure of talking on multiple occasions with Steve Abramowitz, not just on my radio show, but also on his podcast. It's called the Mill Creek View Podcast, and it's available for you right now. If you've not experienced this conservative podcast known as a conservative advocacy podcast by the Tennessean, you need to make yourself available to it. Now, you can go over to the website, mcview.us. That's mcview.us and see some of the Mill Creek View newspaper and some of what Steve does over there. I mean, he covers Franklin like the morning dew, really the entire state of Tennessee and beyond. And he's frequently the number one show in politics on Podomatic. He's on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, really all of your favorite podcast apps. And I am proud to be able to tell you about him. He has great guests. It's a lot of politics, but not just politics. They do entertainment and culture, and they do arts and authors, sports even. Find out more by going to mcview.us or on any of your podcast platforms. Look up the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Lithuania, the NATO summit welcoming Finland as its latest member and will soon add Sweden. President Biden met with Turkey's President Erdogan on the sidelines a day after Erdogan removed a year-long block for Sweden to join the alliance. Ukraine also at the top of the agenda. President Zelensky at the summit too, urging members to allow Ukraine to join as it battles Russian attacks. NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg says the country is on the fast track after the war ends.
We reaffirmed that Ukraine will become a member of NATO and agreed to remove the requirement for a membership action plan. This would change Ukraine's membership path from a two-step process to a one-step process.
For the first time in 150 years, the leadership position of the Marine Corps is unfilled. The former commandant's term ended yesterday. One GOP senator blocking President Biden's nominees for key positions.
Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville has vowed to hold up every single military nomination, an estimated 250 so far, over objections to a Pentagon policy that helps service members travel for abortion procedures. The Pentagon calls the holdups a national security risk. Most armed services Committee Republicans, though, not willing to challenge Tuberville publicly. South Dakota Republican Mike Rounds.
If this is a national security risk, as they're suggesting, then they should make contact with Senator Tuberville and work this out.
Jay O'Brien, ABC News, the Capitol.
Floodwaters not receding yet in Vermont, which has the worst flooding since the 1920s. Governor Phil Scott says heavy rainfall still raging along creeks and rivers, and water rescues are key.
We are not out of the woods. This is nowhere near over, and at this phase, our primary focus continues to be on life and safety.
Some areas are so flooded, though, it's too dangerous for boat rescues to take place. You're listening to ABC News.
I don't know about you, but I need structure when it comes to losing weight. On my own, I lose myself. I don't know what to do necessarily and what not to do. And I need that structured hand that PhD Weight Loss has now provided. And now, after just over 2 weeks, I'm down 13 pounds. I'm getting on the scale tomorrow. I know I'll be down a little more. Thank you to PhD Weight Loss. Over 13 pounds in just over 2 weeks. That's incredible. And for most men, you'll lose between 3 and 5 pounds per week. For most women, between 2 and 3 pounds per week. Now, that's just the difference between your bodies, male and female bodies, depending on how much you're going to lose. Here's the bottom line, folks. If you desire to lose weight, you want a program that's going to be natural, that's not going to fill you full of junk or pills even in order to facilitate weight loss, just developing a program specific for your needs that is going to help you lose the weight without starving you to death, and that is PhD Weight Loss. As a matter of fact, you're going to sit down with a consultant when you contact PhD Weight Loss. They're going to go over all of your particulars, talk to you, develop a plan for you, develop a time frame for you as to how much weight you want to lose and what your target is. And if you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight by the end of your program, PhD will continue to coach you in your program for free until you do. That's their guarantee to you. I invite you to contact them at myphdweightloss.com and begin your journey of weight loss with PhD Weight Loss. myphdweightloss.com. Here we are, and here we go. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show in progress right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us on any internet streaming platform you desire. You can also find us on Super Talk TV if you want to look at my ugly mug, hello, and my short hair. Of course, I have a hat on. You can do that, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. You're invited to run over there. There's a chat going on the F&M Bank chat line. Be a part of that, and we'll try to get over there as time permits. As time permits, we'll have Congressman Tim Burchett on the show in the 2 o'clock hour. He was on Jesse Waters last night talking about UFOs, and I wanted to continue that conversation. And I got to admit, I know Tim Burchett. I like Tim Burchett. I think Tim Burchett is a great congressman. Came off a little kooky last night. Came off a little nutty last night. A little conspiracy theory-y last night. But we'll talk with him about that coming up in just a few moments. Right now, it is our great pleasure to welcome back the two Aarons. That would be Aaron Spradlin and Aaron Goldbranson of the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition to talk about a variety of issues, maybe including UFOs, maybe including Prime Energy Drink. I don't know. Hello.
How are you, sir?
How's it going?
Good day. How are you?
I did not know if I would get to see you guys until tomorrow night, and here you are.
Yeah.
That's nice. Tell me about what we're doing tomorrow night. First and foremost.
So we have of course, under the umbrella of Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition, we are going to be graced with your presence in Williamson County at the monthly meeting of the Williamson County Faith and Freedom Coalition tomorrow, July 12th, at the Williamson County Public Library Meeting Room, which is 1314 Columbia Avenue, Franklin, Tennessee, from 5:30 to 7:30. We will be graced by the great Matt Murphy, who's sitting right next to me, and the Blaze TV's Jill Savage. So we will be having a wide variety of conversations. That's tomorrow from 5:30 to 7:30. You'll also get a little bit of an update on what's going on with child and human trafficking in the state from Aaron Spradlin to my left. So
look, and I know we can't wait to hear from Aaron. Oh, look, Aaron's telling you what to do over there.
Yeah,
he's
being my stage manager right now.
Good for him.
You got to keep him in check.
I can't wait to hear what Aaron has to say. I know what my role is. I got it. My role is to be as brief as possible and get off the stage so Jill Savage can get on stage. That is.
I wasn't hoping you would show up and look pretty.
Well, no. There's no. Look, I did my best. I blame you for this haircut. Because last night, she's like, now, what are you doing? My wife says, like, what are you doing in Williamson County? I'm like, oh, it's the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition event. It's their monthly meeting. They asked me to come and speak. Well, you got to get a haircut, she said. And so I went to get a haircut, and he cut all my hair off. So thanks a lot, Aaron.
Which is horrible because I'd give anything for your hair. I really would. I can't have your hair.
All right, how about $20? I'll get the guy to sleep it out.
We're going to make a Matt Murphy wig for Aaron Spradlin over here.
So I'm excited to talk to Spradlin, particularly because of a subject that came up over the last several days, and it has been the media's response to the incredible reaction to the movie Sound of Freedom. Mm-hmm. And you have some intimate understanding and knowledge of what Tim Ballard was all about, mm-hmm. what he did, and the organization OUR, right? I mean, you were a part of that organization for 7 years.
I still contract here and there, wherever I can go where nobody recognizes me when I'm doing it. But yeah, listen, to come out with Rolling Stone and call it, conspiracy theory, QAnon, chaos, CNN, bashing it. I'm sure The View will probably have something to say about it because anything that has to do with anything good, they're going to attack, as we know. But no, I've been a part of many of these operations. I everything that happened in that movie, sadly, I had to watch it. It was very difficult for me to watch it, I'll be honest with you. But watching that movie was like an operation that we've run 6, 9, 12 times all over the world. That is a real thing. It happened exactly like it happened, minus the pack where he spoiler alert, where somebody dies. That didn't happen. That never happens. But as far as the way the takedowns go, the rescues go, the restoration goes, the aftercare that comes after that, all of that's real.
Well, and the movie doesn't claim, and Hollywood well knows this, and the hashtag never CNNs of the world, and the Rolling Stone, they all know this, that no one claimed that this was a documentary.
No.
This was a fictionalized version of events based on true events, told in such a way to compress it into 2+ hours of film. I've not seen the movie, so I can't speak specific to the movie, but I mean, the fact that you were there and you know that some of these very operations existed.
Oh my goodness, yes. And to come out and say that it's fake. I mean, my first one I ever went on, we had a school teacher pimping 9 of his girls that were in his class. That was in South America back in 2017. And it was very similar. When you see the movie, it's very similar, the way that you do it, the law enforcement working with you, the takedown, et cetera. And to say that it's all conspiracy and fake is an absolute lie, because this is the scourge of the earth, as we've talked about many times. And it just highlights how it happens. And there's some trickery in the way the kids get taken and then what happens after that. And thank God they were saved. But there are millions that aren't.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I cannot think, and you work in politics for a long time, you've heard your fair share of insults. I can't fathom a worse insult than to call this conspiracy theory stuff. You're talking about the lives of children. This is not, hey, we're trying to gin something up and take away your guns, lives of children stuff. This is children are being trafficked every single day, and they are dying in slavery. They are being drugged in slavery. The idea that the media, the left stream Marxist media of CNN and Rolling Stone and a few others could actually come up with this insult is the gravest offense I can think of.
I mean, I just want to put it this way to illustrate the lunacy of their position, because I truly don't. It's either ignorant beyond the ability to crack through the stupidity, or it's intentionally evil, their position.
Yeah.
And it is, well, we know that some of this goes on, but you guys are exaggerating it. That's the totality of their position. And to me, I'm like, even if you're right, and you're not, by the way, but even if you're right, would not highlighting the fact that this goes on, is that not still a good thing? And apparently for the Rolling Stone of the world, it's not, that we should be focused more on climate change as opposed to little boys and little girls being trafficked in a sex trade. It's just unbelievable to me that they think that this is a winning position in a civilized society.
Well, I think, and yesterday you had Mayor Jacobs on, and he was talking about the book from the pre-Hitler era, and how, you go along and you just turn a blind eye. Well, that's what this side does. And I think, and he was very kind in yesterday's interview where he said, I think there are some good people over there. I don't. And that's just me being me. I don't. I think if anybody takes a position one way or the other to make this okay, whether it be the movie, whether it be what's happening in the world, what's happening in America, what's happening here, which we've talked
what's
about
happening
before.
In Franklin,
what's
Tennessee.
happening in Franklin, Tennessee, and I mean, it's right there, but people are still driving by it.
No, Rolling Stone magazine, based on their position carved out on this movie, would tell you that Franklin, Tennessee doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah.
That soccer coach doesn't exist, that this isn't going on as we would describe it going on. Now, I know the circumstances and the details are slightly different than actual trafficking, but the results are the same, that you're destroying little children's lives, if not killing them, destroying them mentally and physically for the rest of their life.
And in that particular case, we still don't know whether he distributed any of the videos that he had.
That's right.
And which puts him right in the realm of, child porn and child trafficking.
How did you become involved in it?
I had a real interesting conversation in a dry sauna one time in 2016 with God. And he told me this is what I'm supposed to do. Sorry for all of you that don't believe, but that's what he did. And since 2016, we've been in this fight. I didn't even know it existed. My military life, my private contracting life, Homeland, State Department, I had no clue that this was going on until it was actually given to me to see. And within 5 months of that particular message, I was undercover in South America with OUR.
Is it growing in prevalence?
Absolutely.
Or are we just becoming more aware of it?
No, it's growing. When we started, it was a $30 billion industry globally. Now it's a $150 billion industry globally. And it'll probably crest 300,000. And this goes back to a quote in the movie. And I think I said this to you one of the times we were on. If I sell you a bag of dope, I have to go buy more dope. But if I have a child from 8 years old until she or he is 18 years old, I can sell them 10 times a day for the next 9 years. Right. And then I can get her to make me a new product.
I feel like, and you guys tell me if I'm being a little Pollyanna on this, but I ask myself why this isn't more prevalent in terms of conversation. And I think good people you bring up Germany. Mm-hmm. And, while a lot of Germans, civilians, knew what was going on, I think that it is on record that a lot chose to put their head in the sand because they didn't want to believe that level of evil could be going on in their midst. And I think a lot of good people don't want to believe that it has become this prevalent in the world, child and human trafficking along these lines.
Well, and here's the thing, and I don't want to discredit anything that they did with Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom, the Tim Ballard story, whatever you want to call it, it highlights outside of the United States. What Mel Gibson's about to do with his documentary that he's going to put out there that will probably get him Clinton is outside of the United States. And I did say that, sorry. But nobody's focusing on the United States. We are the largest customer to this in the world.
I was about to say, there's a lot of money in the United States, and there's a lot of bad people, and there's a lot of bad people with money, and that's what this type of thing gravitates to. Absolutely. It's all about money.
There's nowhere I've went in a role before we even started an operation where I was not approached because I was American. I would I went to a tiki bar in the middle of the Dominican Republic one time. I wasn't even in country for an hour. 15 minutes into it, I get approached by another American who's a concierge of the island. Is going to give me whatever I want.
What are you looking for?
What are you looking for?
And for those out there in Aniana, they're talking about human beings, right? I mean, they are approaching you, asking you what you are looking for in terms of human beings.
Because they assume that's why I'm there. Because I portray myself as a wealthy American. I show up and boom, here's a picture of a 14-year-old. What do you think of her? What do you think of him?
So as someone who has been a part of this lifestyle, I know I asked the question a different way 5 minutes ago, but I'll ask it again. As someone who was a part of this for 7 years, you recommend the movie?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
100%. I think that it's an opening of the eyes to what is actually going on in the world. And what's great about it is it's showing you how it happens, how they take the child or the children and how they move them from point A to point B. And it's that easy. When little Sally gets that modeling gig and mom takes her to meet the modeling agent and then all of a sudden Sally's gone. This is portrayed in the movie.
But a lot of the sex trafficking, the actual trafficking, doesn't go on in the United States. I mean, what I'm saying is that it's prevalent around the world because of the lack. I mean, some of these countries have little to no law enforcement presence to deal with this issue. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. Unfortunately, it's the same here.
Well, we just did a ride along where we took a reporter from another outlet, and I won't identify the outlet because I'll let the article come out. We went from Brentwood to Antioch all around, and if you ever feel like doing this little journey, we can certainly arrange that. But we're talking hot spots in human trafficking, places where box trucks drop off 50 kids, to warehouses, roach motels, landmarks around the city that you would know, hot spots that are less than a mile from where we're sitting right now. It's everywhere. It's right here. And it was so interesting. There was a sporting event going on at Nissan Stadium that night. And so we were driving, while we were doing this surveying of the area, all the cops were at the Nissan Stadium doing traffic control. There wasn't human trafficking control going on that night, so they need more resources. But this is one of those things, and I just want to be very clear here. What he does with the Mission America Foundation and what we do together with Tennessee Faith and Freedom, we are fighting this fight every single day. And if you go see Sound of Freedom or just listen to what we're talking about, Google stuff, you realize very, very quickly that this is one of the few things in life that is you're either with us or against us. You're either with the children or against the children. And we're working with a lot of legislators and good people like Glenn Jacobs and Jack Johnson and William Lamberth and others and Jason Zachary, and the list can go on and on. But these are the people along with us that are fighting the fight. We're not sitting around doing 20-minute podcasts, wearing eyeliner and pontificating on things that, and then saying we're so great. I am bragging a bit on him because he puts people outside these places, alerts law enforcement, puts bodies on the line. I will say the ride along we did a little hairy because you're driving around cartel. You're driving around cartel territory. You can see them in their cars too.
As much as I tell you what, let's take a quick time out because as much as you can, the Aarons, Goldbranson and Spradlin are here with Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition, and originally I had you guys coming on to talk about the event tomorrow night and encourage people to come out. But I'm just fascinated by this. As much as you can, Aaron, I want to ask you to detail what a mission from OUR is like.
Okay.
What that looks like, feels like, what that is, especially for those that are contemplating going to see the movie Sound of Freedom. Before you do, you can hear from a man who's been on these missions himself. It's 121 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm about to have a seizure.
United Structural Systems available for you, friends. You don't want to call USS. I know you don't. You don't want to call them. You don't want to call them because when you do, you feel like something might be wrong with your foundation. You don't want to call them because when you do, you're worried about waterproofing in your home. Maybe you're smelling that musty smell. You want to whistle past the graveyard. I know that you do. You want to believe that nothing's wrong, but you see those telltale signs. The walls bowing, the stair step cracks in your basement, in your masonry mortar joints. And if you see these things, understand something. This problem is not going to fix itself. You need to call professionals, and the professionals at USS are the ones that I recommend, strongly recommending them. They've been around since 1994 and have satisfied over 25,000 customers. I wish that I knew USS when I had my house back in Birmingham because I spent a lot of money working on my foundation and getting it right, and I could have spent a lot less with a lot better company at USS. But you've got them right here in Middle Tennessee and beyond. They serve South Kentucky, they serve North Alabama, and all throughout Tennessee. Give them a call today and see if they can help you. I encourage you to do that. 615-488-7855, 488-7855, USSTN.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 125, Matt Murphy and you, Tim Burchett in the house, well, on the phone, in the 2 o'clock hour, talking aliens, UFOs, and the like. Right now, we've got, I call them the two Aarons, lovingly, Gull Branson and Spradlin on with us. Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition. Event tomorrow night, Williamson County Public Library, 5:30 to 7:30. I will be there. Jill Savage of the Blaze will be there. Aaron will be there. I think the other Aaron, all the Aarons will be there. So you're invited to come too. It's open to the public. Get there early, and I'll shake your hand. I'll be there probably 5:15 or so. So I asked the question, Aaron. I mean, you've been for 7 years. You were contracted to go on some of these OUR missions. What does that look like from beginning to middle to end? Talk to me about this.
Okay, so let's
hold on just a second. Thank you, Bel K.
So let's start with the request. First, you get requested by the federal authorities, okay, for a country that you're going into. You're working directly. This is not some vigilante,
So you're working with that country.
You're working with that country. And you're also working with the federal prosecutors. So you go in, you spend about a day and a half with the requirements for evidence, what you need to collect it. And then what you don't talk about is the guys that are already on the ground that have made contact. So you'll have somebody that's made contact with the pimps or the facilitators. You'll set up what is a party or an event in full, compliance with the federal law enforcement, federal prosecutors.
So it's kind of a sting operation?
It's a total sting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they fall in love with you because you say you want this and this and this. And what's nice about it is to keep you out of harm's way as far as having to do anything. It's not for you. It's for the boss that's coming. So you're setting it up for the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just, his cronies, the people that work for him. And so you go in, then the boss shows up. The party goes down, and they'll parade him in. I mean, it's the most horrific thing that you've ever seen. They'll bring him in, and so scantily.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you at this stage, you have to convince these individuals that you're a part of this world.
Yep, 100%.
Is that the hardest part of all of this?
It is, because you have to act like you're.
You have to talk their language. You have to say the things that you think they want to hear. And
it's horrible.
That's got to be tough.
It's very difficult, but at the end of the day, when it all goes down, it's the most gratifying thing in the world, because the bad guys go to jail. We go to jail, just a different jail. Wink.
Mm-hmm.
And then
okay, so y'all are corralled with everyone else.
We get slammed to the ground.
Yeah,
we've got lots
you got to play.
video.
You got to play it all out.
Play it all out. And then I said this many, many, many times, next to the sound of my son being born, listening to those kids be freed, there's nothing like it. And they know that they don't have to do it anymore. And then they're going straight to restoration.
Now, for those that don't know, OUR stands for Operation Underground Railroad.
Underground Railroad.
And did Tim Ballard start it?
He did.
He left, I guess, was it Homeland Security?
He was with HSI, yeah.
You've met Tim?
Oh, yeah. We've had him here. We've had him. We did a documentary premiere at the Franklin Theater.
Why did what compelled him to leave the umbrella of the federal government and seek out and create this organization on his own? Was he hampered by rules and regulations? What was it about?
Well, because he was only allowed to help Americans. And these were not. He was in these countries, Homeland does a lot of stuff throughout the world, and not just here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see these things, and you are hampered by the arm of the government, you can't act. And I mean, in the film, you'll see where it gets to a point where, even though they tried to help him as far as they could, they're like, you can't have the resources, you can't have our top cover, you can't have these things. You're going to have to do it by yourself. And knowing him and knowing his family, the support that he had from his family, his wife said, just go do it. And he did. And it's successful. I mean, overwhelmingly successful. Over 6,500 arrests, over 7,000 rescues. I mean, they've done an amazing thing. And that's, of course, that's why I'm so hot about, anybody saying it's not real.
Well, and I want to note that, there are no competitors in this arena. There are only allies. And I want to note that Glenn Beck,
oh, yeah.
I mean, he was absolutely instrumental in making all of this happen. I think he raised money for Ballard initially to try to get him off the ground. Did he not?
He did. And Ballard actually took him on an op.
Did he really?
He put him undercover. They disguised him, and they put him on it. And once he saw it with his own eyes, I think he even, and I may be wrong, but I think I'm right. He put $1 million of his own into it just to get it off the ground.
And, I mean, it goes without saying, but I'll ask the question anyway, that, I mean, if you're found out, you get killed, don't you?
Well, you do have the advantage of the federal top cover for the country that you're with. I was in a South American country. We won't mention the country. One night after we took down 17, when we rescued 17, we put 7 in jail.
So you're simultaneously arresting the bad guys and saving the children.
Right.
Yeah.
But we almost got rolled by the locals. And that was sketchy. And if it wasn't for the feds, I'd still be sitting in that prison.
I mean, have you ever been in one of these operations over your 7 years doing this and you thought, man, this is not going to end well? I mean, or did you feel good about them all?
I felt good about all of them. Just that one little hairy moment. And, we don't go too deep into the divine, but I do believe that we have a hand over us when we're doing these things, and it's protecting us, and you can feel it because there's no way we should be able to get away with what we get away with. And it's there's only one way to answer that, and that's him.
Well, these evil desires that present themselves in the minds of men are to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they're seeking the fulfillment of that evil desire, and they're blind to the good and what you have protecting you during the course of an operation.
Absolutely. And all you got to do is throw a couple more hundreds at them.
Oh, my goodness. All right, so 132. All right, we'll talk about Franklin. I want to ask you guys your opinion on Franklin and how in the world. I mean, I know that a lot of citizens in Franklin, Tennessee are shocked that this was going on under their nose for the last 20 or so years. We'll talk about that in a moment. It's the Murphy Show. The two Aarons are with us. 132 on Super Talk. That's, I guess, yeah. I mean, you always have the protection of the federal government, but man, if one local starts sensing that
it was sketchy. We were sitting there waiting on him to do all the policing up.
The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix that I've been telling you about for the last couple of months, it's almost here. Less than a month away, August 4th through the 6th in downtown Nashville. It's the party of the summer. You want to see this. If you are at all a motorsports fan, I mean, this is a must-see. And I don't even have to talk to you anymore. You just go on over to musiccitygp.com and buy your tickets. But even if you're not, if you're a fan of Nashville, you're a fan of food and fun and music, and you've never experienced open-wheel racing, this is the way to do it. Open-wheel racing through the streets of Nashville. It is the party of the summer. New for 2023, Saturday night racing, a family fun zone, and so much more. The high flying stadium super trucks will be back. Tons of racing, all capped with the NTT IndyCar Series racing through the streets of Nashville. See it for yourself. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, the 4th through the 6th of August. There are day tickets available and 3-day passes plus premium hospitality. Get amped. MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com. Information-fueled, opinion-driven, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy with you until 3 o'clock this afternoon. The Drive with Brian Wilson at that time. It's our episode 373. Do not forget, July 26th. Let's see if I can do this one more time without notes. July 26th at the J Korean Grill and Bar in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Yours truly, Dan Mandis, Brian Wilson, Pamela Furr, Johnny B., amongst others, will be in presence, and we invite you to be a part of it, 997WTN.com. I have begged of Dan Mandis that we have a date certain set for our pickleball match, our challenge at that time, so that we can announce to the folks there in Hendersonville on July 26th when they can expect this pickleball challenge to go down.
You know what's going to happen, don't you?
What's that?
The backtracking shall begin.
Injury? Maybe.
Maybe that, or I've got meetings tomorrow. I can't afford to be sore in, and
So here's what happened today. So Mandis was bragging this morning about his private lesson. Did you hear this, McMorris? His private lesson that he was bragging about. He was his little pickleball private lesson that he was having.
Oh wow!
And that's what I thought too. And I said, man, I guess I need to look up on Wikipedia how to play pickleball if you're getting this serious about it. And because so far my pickleball lessons have included Jack Daniels and cigars. And he said, oh, yeah, Murphy, going on a private lesson. Mm-hmm. And I said, what time is your private lesson? And because he made the mistake of telling me that it was in Mount Juliet at Charlie Daniels Park. I said, what time? Because I was right down the street getting my hair cut. I said, what time's this lesson? And he told me that it had gotten canceled.
See, I told you.
Yeah.
Backtracking's going to start happening.
Was there a little performance anxiety or something there?
I don't know. I mean,
it made him nervous.
Mandis thinks he can beat me in pickleball. I mean, maybe he can. I don't know. I mean, I would not have guessed that he could beat me in Connect 4, but that happened at the steeplechase. Who would you put your money on? Pickleball.
You.
Now, thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Mm-hmm. I noticed Spradlin's being suspiciously quiet, but that's fine. That's okay. I don't blame him, really.
It's pickleball.
I don't know. Have you ever played pickleball?
No.
What does that mean?
That's exactly what it sounds like.
That's what all of these gym guys do. And you're a gym guy, Spradlin. I see it. I
don't play pickleball.
Well, I mean, that's what all of you gym guys do. You besmirch things like pickleball. I mean,
you may get your heart rate up to about 90 in a game of pickleball.
That's about all I can handle if you looked at it. So we'll get more details on that as they become available. But I'm ready anytime. You just tell me when and where to be there, and I'll be there with bells on, Mandis, and we'll play some pickleball.
I just became the enemy to the entire pickleball community.
They're mean. They're old and they're mean. They have very little to live for.
Hey,
they'll come after you, man. You think some of these overseas operations were bad news? Wait till the pickleball folks
don't show up at Lifetime.
They got
tomorrow.
oh man,
they make shuffleboard players look calm.
I mean, they're slow, but there's a lot of them. They're like zombies.
Yeah, it's quite its own cult following.
Well, sooner or later they'll put it on ice too. There you go. You can pickleball and skating.
On ice. That'd be nice. I fear that the pickleball community is like bicyclists. I made the mistakes years ago of I felt like I was clearly joking about how to handle bicyclists, and bicyclists don't have senses of humor about anything apparently, and they will come after you. I mean, they will come at you.
Yep.
They don't like you. They don't like jokes about opening your car door.
Well,
no, and I didn't say that. Bell said that.
Hopefully the pickleball community will forgive all of us who are sitting here fighting child and human trafficking. So,
Yes, we have good sides.
Yes, we do. This Franklin, Tennessee story, I mean, it's every parent's nightmare, right? That the parents that are paying attention, and I'm sure that so many of them are, and you think that you find people that you can trust. It reminded me, and I said this yesterday, there was a story that went on when I was in Birmingham involving a man by the name of Don Corley, who was a Boy Scout master and in Homewood, Alabama, respected in his community. And for years, he had been molesting little boys. Uh-huh. And it took the courage of one little boy to step forward. A 14-year-old little boy by the name of Jason Lee stepped forward and said, no, and went to his parents and said, yeah, I'll go to the authorities. And then 4 or 5 more came forward. And eventually it turned out he had molested at least 20 over the years. And this story in Franklin, there were a lot of similarities to this. I mean, it's just frightening, the concept that this is next door to us.
And, and that's a lot of what we talk about with Mission America is how it's in your backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, this guy would go to the parks. He would recruit. He would befriend the families. He was well known as a soccer coach. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at News Channel 5, so I'm quoting what they said, but he was part of the families. And then he takes these kids and does what he does. And, I think we said 2 or 3 times back, the largest bust in Tennessee, when we're talking about it being in your backyard and people you trust, the largest bust in Tennessee happened in May of 2016 in East Tennessee, where there were 42 arrests. And the head of the child trafficking ring was the youth pastor of the church. These are the people, and you can look that one up. And these are the people that you trust with your children, right? I mean, my son's had, in 21 years, God knows how many coaches he's had. And they've been phenomenal coaches and wonderful people and, youth group and all the stuff that he was a part of. But we trusted them, and we're the fortunate ones that, that didn't happen in our time with our son. But it is everywhere. I say this when I talk about it. We all know somebody that does this, and that's how bad it is.
And go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, and honestly, they could be members of any part of your community. They could be members of your church. I mean, these issues mean so much to me personally. Not to spew my guts totally, but my grandmother was raped by her father when she was 4 years old. My mother was raped by an uncle. I walked in, and this has scarred me. And my sister's repressed it, thank God. I walked in on my sister when she was 5 being molested by the brother of a friend of mine, and I was 9. So those things are terrible, terrible things, and they stick with you. Now, for me, I've decided to turn it into fighting all of this stuff, but it sticks with you, and you have to be careful with your kids and be vigilant always.
Yeah, stay in their lives. Don't let the tablet be the babysitter.
I can't, but for those parents that do it, and I'm trying to put myself in the mind of a parent who's trying to navigate that minefield, and I can't imagine it because you don't want to be so mistrustful. I mean, it reminds me of when I talk about my buddy Brink Fiddler in Defense Systems and how important it is for business owners and churchgoers and people in school settings to get the level of training that you need in the event that something bad goes down in terms of a mass shooting. And I often say when I'm talking about Brink that, look, the odds of any of this happening to you are astronomically low, but hope is not a plan. Similarly, the odds of your child being molested are very low. At the same time, you have to remain vigilant because you never know when these molesters are going to pop up in your community or in your life. Mm-hmm. And so to walk that fine line of being suspicious, trust but verify, make sure that you sit down with the people who are in your kids' lives, but at the same time not shut them out from some of these life experiences like soccer or other sporting activities or whatever they might be into. I mean, that balance is so delicate. I don't even know what to say to it.
I have found that human nature can be your gut can kind of clue you in on this stuff. So if you're so stuck as a parent in your phone or your iPad or whatever, and your gut is not allowed to, to flourish, and your senses are not allowed to be out there because your face is buried in something, that's when these things happen. And that's something to remember. When you're at the playground and you're, so interested in texting and tweeting and all that other stuff, you're not watching or sensing what's going around. That's how how those relationships can happen. That's how kids can get stolen right off the playground or right out of the Walmart because, unfortunately in this day and age, we have to feed this beast that is these phones and all these other tablets and all that. And put it down. Honestly, just put it down.
Yeah, and just observe how your kid is interacting with other human beings.
Yeah.
Especially older human beings.
Yeah.
That you're not intimately familiar with. What can folks who are listening right now do individually in their lives? I mean, obviously, the Operation Underground Railroad continues. Donations are always needed, and you can find them. Just go to ourrescue.org.
Right.
Is the easiest way to find the railroad website. What else can we do?
Well, you can go to missionamericafoundation.com, to missionamericafoundation.org, where we talk about the domestic problem.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say to anybody that when we speak, I'm like, just get on this wonderful thing they call the internet and do a little Googling on statistics, what to look for. Homeland puts out a wonderful thing that are signs. The Bureau, actually, believe it or not, puts out a very good thing on what the signs of trafficking are. We had a wonderful situation. I say it's wonderful. It could have been tragic. A woman in Brentwood that had attended one of our speaking engagements ended up seeing a girl that was in a vehicle that she didn't look right. It was snowing, and she's in Daisy Duke. She's young. She's wearing a crop top. Ended up the girl had been kidnapped from Texas and was on her way to Louisville to be sold. And Brentwood PD swooped in and took him down, got her back to where she needed to be. See something, say something. I never recommend getting yourself physically involved, but keep eyes on until the authorities get there to do it. It happens. As men, we like to sit in the car while our significant others are in the store. Sit in the parking lot one day at a Kroger's while she's in there shopping or he's in there shopping and you're out there. Watch the parking lot of a grocery store or a Target
or a gas station.
Or a gas station. You can, it starts to, it's like, you remember those things we used to look at as just a bunch of colors and all of a sudden you'd see the Statue of Liberty, right? I don't know what that's called, but you see the picture emerge.
Yeah.
Posters. Yeah.
If you watch, you'll see it happening, whether they're looking to steal something from your car or whether they're looking to steal a child or whether they're, looking to harm or rob you. It's there. And that doesn't mean it's in the bad parts of the country. I mean, anywhere. That I'm talking, I know stories that came out of Brentwood Target that was a trafficking that could have happened, but it didn't happen, or a kidnapping that could have happened that didn't happen because somebody saw something, they said something.
How do, and I hesitate to even ask this question because I don't want to mentally go here, but how do the people the moral less evil people that want a child, is it dark web where they?
Oh, no.
I mean, how are they hooking up, Aaron?
No, so
with the people that are trafficking children,
right? So I mean, I could give you a phone number right now, right here in Tennessee.
Well, please don't. But I mean, yeah,
but
I
the
get it.
point is, I can call and if that's my thing, I could call that phone number and the child will be delivered to me.
Right here in the state of Tennessee.
Right here in dadgum Nashville.
Or they tell you where to go and that sort of thing.
Are we doing everything we should to battle this domestically?
Not. Not even close.
No, and we are, and I would also say, if you want to talk more about this, I mean, sincerely, not just plugging an event. I mean, show up tomorrow night because you can talk to Aaron directly. You can talk to me, tomorrow night at the
I mean, this is one of the focuses of the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition.
Listen, we fight against a number of things, including red flag laws and, if a tax increase comes up. The thing that I'm going to take pride in 10 years, 20, 30 years from now when I'm on my deathbed is, did we save lives? And did we stop kids from being hurt? Did we rescue kids? And so, there's going to be a big initiative that we're going to announce either later this summer or in the fall. We're working it out with the backing of a number of members of the General Assembly. I'm using this as a placeholder, but something along the lines of child protection acts that we're going to be pushing as a legislative agenda. And those measures that we're going to take, and we have great support in the General Assembly. People like to bag on the General Assembly a little bit. They are good people, by and large. Some of them are a little foolish, but they're by and large very, very good, on the right anyway. There's things that you could do. Go on tnfaithfreedom.com, tnfaithfreedom.com. Watch out for that because these measures we're talking are going to save lives, and that's all we care about with these things. We don't care about puffing ourselves up with it. We just care about making a difference.
I understand that we're not doing enough domestically. How is is the lack of security on the southern border just exacerbating the problem too, Aaron?
It's increased. And then this is something that we don't.
So we hear a lot about drug trafficking.
But listen, we were. Let's see, in 2018 there were 17,500 and some change unaccompanied minors. Okay, March of this year we had 150,000.
Well, there you go.
This year. Now that being said, 83%. Now, this number fluctuates, but 83% of the children trafficked in the United States are American children.
Okay.
Now, we've increased that now because now we just have a whole new crop that nobody's stopping or protecting as they're being brought across. The ones that aren't being stuffed with drugs, dead bodies thrown into Arizona and Texas, which is a real thing, just bodies where they take the fentanyl out of the corpse of the child. Those are not being trafficked because they're already gone. The ones that are coming across, imagine they're 6 years old. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows where they're from. And they can be used for the next 12 years. And then they become labor slaves.
Yeah.
And they're indentured servants for the rest of their lives until they die. Yes, the border is an enormous problem. The organization that is running this, the cartels, I said this when we were on the show coming back from the border with you. It's like a Fortune 500. They are so well organized.
That's incredible.
It's like the mafia. I mean, and the other thing is this is the truth. There was a task force to fight this that was thriving under President Trump. And because of the involvement in the southern border, the Biden administration has de-emphasized it out of politics. They're playing politics with kids' lives.
Have they shut it down, or they just de-emphasized it?
They're not giving them anything to do. They technically still exist, but yeah. So 2024, Biden has to go.
It's an incredible conversation. It's an important conversation, one that will continue tomorrow night at the Williamson County Public Library. You're invited to come out and see Jill Savage, myself, the two Aarons. We'll all be there amongst others. We appreciate you guys coming in today. Thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thank you, Matt, as always.
We'll be back in just a moment. Continue. One more hour to go.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 89 degrees in Nashville, and that high for the week staying in the low 90s. Tonight will stay dry starting tomorrow night. Got a chance of some thunderstorms in the mid-state. Complete forecast 5 minutes away. In an active investigation in Clarksville, Tennessee, right now officials are looking into a shooting that ended in a result of a homicide and a suicide. The incident happened in the 4200 block of Moore Hollow Road inside of a home. Law enforcement say there's no danger to the public. Right now in Middle Tennessee, a Wilson County school board member is proposing a policy requiring teachers to tell parents if their kids are identifying as a gender other than what they were assigned at birth. News 2 says it's only in the discussion phase. No votes have been taken yet, but Director of Schools Jeff Luttrell told a recent board meeting there are more important matters to deal with.
I'm sick of focusing on some of this stuff every day of my job. I need to be focusing on the issues at hand, which are building schools, which are trying to find more money in the budget to pay teachers.
School board member Joseph Padilla is proposing the policy and says telling a parent if their child is transgender is like telling a parent their child has ADHD. In California, a San Francisco judge has denied the Federal Trade Commission's attempt to pause Microsoft's acquisition of a major video game company. Mike Dubusky.
Microsoft is now one step closer to purchasing Activision Blizzard, the maker of hit games like Call of Duty and Candy Crush. A judge struck down the FTC's request for a preliminary injunction, which would have given the agency time to build its antitrust case. In her ruling, the judge said, to the contrary, record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. In response, an FTC spokesperson said the merger is a clear threat to open competition in gaming.
And the PGA defended their controversial merger with Saudi-backed Live Golf in a Senate subcommittee hearing today. Jay O'Brien brings us some more.
The PGA's chief operating officer, Ron Price, responding to concern from lawmakers in a Senate subcommittee over the recent merger with Saudi-backed Live Golf.
The agreement provides clear, explicit, and permanent safeguards that ensure the tour will lead the decisions that shape our future.
Critics, including Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, the top Democrat on the panel, call the PGA's decision hypocritical and accuse the Saudis of using Live Golf to sports wash human rights abuses, including the murder of Jamal Khashoggi.
Families of 9/11 victims were also in attendance at the hearing, protesting the merger. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I'm heading to the GlockStore after my appointed duties here at the radio station to do some shooting. You know, you're going to have a chance to beat my GlockStore score. That's coming up in just a few weeks as we plan on a broadcast out of the GlockStore pretty soon. You can stop by the GlockStore today, tomorrow, anytime during their open hours. You need to go by Elm Hill Pike. They're right off of Elm Hill Pike on Air Lane Drive. The GlockStore, world famous truly because of the incredible selection that they have, the fact that they manufacture parts right there. They've got the shooting rooms for dedicated shooting rooms. They specialize in Glocks, of course. They have a huge selection of firearms, accessories, ammos, and performance parts. For me, the most important component to what they do at the GlockStore, they understand that owning a firearm is an important component of the Second Amendment and self-defense. They also understand how to use the firearm is equally, if not more so important, which is why they have the Shoot 270 memberships available to you right now. Now, I'm going to do some training this afternoon. When are you going to do your training? This afternoon? Why not stop by and schedule an appointment with Dan and the gang in the shooting rooms at the world-famous GlockStore? Go to GlockStore.com or Shoot270.com for more information. GlockStore.com. Stop by right off of Elm Hill Pike on Air Lane Drive, minutes away from the sound of my voice. It's the GlockStore. Here we are. Here we go. Final hour of the Matt Murphy Show on this Tuesday edition. It's been a good one, if I do say so myself. We'll try to make the last hour even better than the previous one, although that's going to be hard duty. The two Aarons, Gulbranson and Spradlin, with us of the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition. Aaron Spradlin has been a part of missions similar to what you may have seen in Sound of Freedom, a story involving Tim Ballard and his life and his effort and the purpose for his creation of Operation Underground Railroad. What a compelling story. I've not yet seen the movie. I'm excited to see it, although it is heavy subject matter. And last hour was very heavy as well. I appreciate all of you on the super text line offering your words of support. It is a difficult conversation to have. And for the most part, many of us want to believe. I include myself in your number. I want to believe that this doesn't happen with the regularity that I know that it happens. Understand that? I bet you do. I bet you do. And not just here, or not just abroad, but here in the United States. The most dramatic and disappointing, even depressing statistic, the most disappointing moment out of our interview with Aaron Gulbranson and Aaron Spradlin was when Aaron Spradlin, who has been on these missions, was a part of Operation Underground Railroad for 7 years, who has done the hard work like a Tim Ballard to try to rescue as many youngsters as possible. He tells us that while statistics fluctuate year to year, month to month, that statistically of the children trafficked in the United States of America, 83% of them are from right here in the United States. Now, while that statistic might not be shocking to you, it was to me. For some reason, I have this undying belief that America is different than the rest of the world. And I know in a lot of ways it's not true, certainly not in 2023, but I want to believe it, that we still remain that shining city on a hill, that beacon of light, hope, freedom, independence, a belief in personal responsibility in taking care of our communities and taking care of our children. But it is a sad reality, as Aaron pointed out, that is not the case, at least not now, and there's so much more that we can do. So while I would like to believe in a world where this type of thing does not go on, where I would love to agree with a Rolling Stone, oh, this is just a morbid, sicko fantasy on the part of the right wing. That's what they said. That's what they said. We know it's not so, and we know that there are children that need saving, and it's up to us to do it. In the meantime, 615-737-9986. If you'd like to be a part of the show, we'd love to have you. 615-737-9986, either via super text line or telephone lines. Always open, always available. When I'm here from noon until 3, the most important thing that I can do is speak with you on the issues of the day. Speaking of, last night I noted that our own Congressman Tim Burchett was making an appearance on Jesse Waters. Now, Jesse is set to go prime time. Well, he's already prime time, I guess. I don't know if 6 o'clock technically is prime time. But Jesse Waters will move from the 6 to 7 time slot to the 7 to 8 time slot, formerly occupied by Tucker Carlson, in an attempt to get some of their viewership back. I think Greg Gutfeld, one of the best shows on late-night television, is sliding back an hour. Ingram's move, and Hannity stay in the same place. This is all on Fox News, by the way. But on Fox News last evening, Congressman Tim Burchett made an appearance, and he talked primarily about UFOs. We will speak to Tim Burchett about UFOs and about Joe Biden, but I repeat myself, coming up in the next few minutes as he makes an appearance on our radio show. And we appreciate that appearance. Did you hear about Ben & Jerry's? I was late to this story. I did not have it yesterday, but I have it today. I largely ignore a lot of what these ridiculous woke companies and organizations and some of these ridiculous outlets, what they have to say about holidays like Independence Day. Well, Ben & Jerry's called on the United States of America to return stolen indigenous land to American Indians during its Independence Day message last week. The company thought that it would be a good time to remind the United States of America that we have stolen land, and it's time to return said stolen land. Ben & Jerry's July 4th message took aim specifically at Mount Rushmore in South Dakota and called on the United States to return the land to the Lakota Sioux tribe. This is in the Badlands, the Black Hills, I should say, of South Dakota, a state that I've never had the honor to be in, although that is changing in a couple of months. My brother and I going up to Mount Rushmore. I hear, I've heard mixed messages about Mount Rushmore. Have you ever been to Mount Rushmore, Maury?
Yeah, beautiful.
You like it?
Yeah,
I've heard it. I see. I've gotten. I either get yes, great, wonderful, awesome, or I get that it is disappointing, that it's underwhelming. I've heard people have told me that it's underwhelming
because of the size.
Because it's smaller than you think.
It is a little. Yes, it is a little smaller than you think. But it's amazing.
Here's what I already know is going to annoy me about Mount Rushmore. Let's see how well Mac Maury knows me. Can you guess? And I'll give you a huge hint. I'm OCD.
Oh, well, they're not going to be symmetrical.
They're not. That's fine.
Be the same height,
that's
same
okay.
size.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm all right so far.
Oh, they're not in the middle.
No, that's okay too.
Okay, then what is it?
Why didn't they clean up the rock? Every image I've ever seen of Mount Rushmore, all I can think of is, why don't you clean up that rock that you left underneath it? Why does that bother me so much? It does. It really bothers me. It's like
so
if you spent all of the damn time to make these incredible monuments to our nation's founding fathers, and you can't get a couple of dump trucks down there to clean up some of the rubble that you left. I don't feel like you finished the job unless you clean up. I'm being serious.
No, I think that's totally fair.
Why didn't they clean it up? I think I'll enjoy Sturgis just as much as I'll enjoy Mount Rushmore, by the way. But I'll be reporting back on that later on.
Where is Sturgis
in
again?
the fall. Sturgis is no, it's in South Dakota. It's just beyond.
Oh, it is in South Dakota.
It's like if you go past Mount Rushmore and keep going a little bit further.
Okay, great.
You get to like Sturgis. I think Deadwood is out there.
Yep.
Deadwood, South Dakota is out there, and the one other thing I want to see is Devil's Tower. Because I remember that was one of the most iconic images in the Close Encounters movie. You know, he made the mashed potato. You ever see Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Remember this?
Yeah.
He makes the little mashed potato
yes.
image of it, Devil's Tower. Anyway, that's out there as well. So I'm excited about seeing that. Well, the Mount Rushmore may or may not be returned to the Lakota Sioux tribe by that time if Ben & Jerry's gets their way. Well, their July 4th message said that, hey, on this Independence Day, it's a good time to remind everyone, and I'm paraphrasing now, it's a good time to remind everybody that, the United States of America, our forefathers, stole all this land from Native Americans. Not that the Native Americans were really Native Americans to anything. We all come from somewhere else. We all come from somewhere else. And because Ben & Jerry decided to stand on that magnanimous soapbox and declare that certain portions of the United States needs to be returned to the indigenous peoples, Don Stevens, who is chief of the Nulhegan Band of the Cossack Abenaki Nation, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, told the New York Post on Friday that the headquarters of Ben & Jerry's in South Burlington, Vermont, is actually located on Abenaki land, and they would like their land back, saying if the company is sincere, Mr. Stevens told the newspaper that he looks forward to any kind of correspondence with the brand to see how they can better benefit the indigenous people. So we look forward to Ben & Jerry's responding to the demand by indigenous peoples that say that they stole their land, whether or not they're going to be giving it back. All right, 2:16. And I think we take a break right now. Is that correct? No? Well, I understand that, but we're going to have to take one in a minute. And I didn't get to play the clips because you were what were you making in there? What are we having?
I thought we were going to do that while he was on the air.
Well, we were, but I was going to play one or two of them before. Well, let's go ahead and get him on the air. Why does it say Captain Kirk on my computer monitor?
Because he's my Captain Kirk.
Congressman Tim Burchett joins us on the Matt Murphy Show. Tim, I had nothing to do with Bell K writing Captain Kirk in your description. What's going on, Congressman? How are you?
I'm well.
I loved you on Jesse Waters last night. I think you did great.
Well, thank you. I just come in. We were up at Bedminster with President Trump and me and one other congressman, and the Fox News truck couldn't get in, so we came in on two wheels after we talked to the president, and then it was in a parking lot in a van. Which was kind of neat, and but anyway, so I was glad it worked out all right.
Wait, so when you were interviewed last night, as I was watching, you were in a van?
Yep, I was. It was a mobile studio that they have, that Fox has, and it looked. I saw a replay of it. It looked like I was in the studio.
No, you look great. Cool. You look fabulous. You sounded good.
The camera makes love to me. We all know that.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, is there a more handsome congressman in the state of Tennessee than you, Tim?
Probably not in the nation, actually.
I appreciate that. And you're pretty confident, not only in your looks, but you're pretty confident that America's hiding something from the American public regarding UFOs and UFOs as defined, unidentified flying objects, but more importantly, alien life forms. Talk to me about it.
Well, everybody goes back to Roswell. We can go back to there. We can go back before that even. We were told military intelligence puts out, we have recovered a flying saucer. I mean, that was their words. It was headlines. And then the next day they said, "Oh, we made a mistake. It was our secret balloon operation that we that you all found." This was supposed to be some top secret balloon deal, and they're putting that out instead of saying, "No, it was a wrecked aircraft or something." It was just totally misidentified. So now you've got these videos, and it's the Tic Tac videos, not like TikTok, not on your cell phone, the Chinese propaganda garbage. Tic Tac, like it's shaped like a candy. If you'll Google it, you can watch the videos. We have Navy pilots calling out these craft, and and basically the government is just lackadaisically, now they're saying, well, we think there's something to it, and the only reason they're saying there's something to it because they want the Fed, they want the Congress to feed them a few more $1 billion they can waste. All I want them to do is just turn loose the files. Let's have some transparency. If there's nothing to cover up, then why don't they release the files? Why do they keep sending these redacted things? I mean, they won't even release the Kennedy files, and that's over 50 years since the assassination of the president, and there's nobody alive that's gonna, that will be embarrassed by them. And just to me, it's not honest. And if they've got nothing to hide, just bring it out.
Our guest is Congressman Tim Burchett. We have to take a short hold there for a couple of minutes and play some advertisements to the folks. You understand that, the free market and all, Tim. We'll be back with Tim Burchett in a moment. We'll reflect on his conversation with Jesse Waters last night and continue the conversation and ask him the direct question, how do we get these files released? We'll do that next. It's 2:21 on Super Talk. Hey, folks, Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief located in Franklin. You've heard me talk about these guys. Let me remind you of my personal experience. I've had lower back pain for a long time. As I mentioned many times, my back never said a word to me over my 20s when I regularly lifted with my back instead of lifted with my legs like I was told to do. Not a word, not a peep out of my back. Now I'm in my 40s and my back talks to me often about what I did back then. Well, the Dr. Gill Center is talking back, and they're actually giving me treatment that I can use without the need for pills. Popping pills is no way to live your life. Contemplating surgery, that's no good either. That should be a last resort. And obviously, I don't want to resort to needles either. So if you have back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, if you have pain like I did, every bit of this can be treated with no needles and no downtime at the Dr. Gill Center. The Dr. Gill Center was the originator of decompression therapy. They started all of this in Middle Tennessee. Why would you go to some other fly-by-night guy when you can go to the guy that originated it all right here in our backyard? I want you to be pain-free, and I want you to do it with the Dr. Gill Center, the only one that I'll recommend. Go see the crew at the Dr. Gill Center. They have a team of chiropractors ready and willing to get you pain-free. 615-882-4838, 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center. I am proud to be associated with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. You may have heard me talking with David Corlew, who is one of the originators of the Journey Home Project and one of Charlie's good friends and his manager for years. He related and Charlie related over the years of his life that their mission was simple: to help veterans and heroes reintegrate from service to civilian life, and in doing so, ease the pain and the hardship of having to worry about the money involved in incorporating them back into civilian life. And that is what they do on a regular basis. I encourage you to make a donation today. To find out more about their mission, their project, and some of the organizations that they believe in, I invite you to go to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project.org. That's the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project.org. As a matter of fact, right there, you'll see their call to arms for the next 2 months and 2 days. Their goal is to raise $220,000 for the continued effort to end veteran suicide and get veterans the help that they truly need. I invite you to be a part of this solution with the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project. Go to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project.org. And when you talk to the guys over there, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to an organization I strongly believe in, the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project.
Russia's response to cluster bombs that'll come from Ukraine, which will be supplied by the United States. A man spitting in an officer's face here in Tennessee, and an Alabama senator defends his stance on white nationalists. Those stories and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I know who that's.
The whistleblower,
sorry.
I know him. He's a decorated veteran. I know in Washington, D.C., that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but in East Tennessee, that means a whole lot. Those are the Tic Tac videos you're seeing there right now. Those are videos that were taken by American military. That's their gunners, their gunner photography, and they're actually trying to follow those things. And those are some of the best pilots in the world.
That's the voice of Tim Burchett. He was joining Jesse Waters last evening. He joins us today talking about his frustration with the lack of transparency when it comes to unidentified flying objects and the possibility of extraterrestrial life presenting itself here on Earth. By the way, I don't want to let this go too far, Congressman. There are many that are suggesting that Senator Marsha Blackburn is far more attractive than you on Super Text. I just wanted to note that. We're really referring to the male contingent in the Tennessee delegation more so than the female. Well, I think I specifically said congressman, too. Yeah, I think so, too. So there you go. Let's just clean the air. But of all of the congressmen that I've met in the state of Tennessee, Tim Burchett's by far the most handsome. So there you go. I hope Mark Green, this gets back to him. Anyway, so what can we do? I mean, the government of the United States is supposed to be, Tim, transparent. So if you believe that there is information that is being hidden, I mean, and like you say right before the break, if there's not information that's being hidden, if there's nothing to hide, why not open up the files? And if there is something to hide, what in the heck are they hiding, and what justifiable reason do they have for hiding it?
Well, you said it best. It's just you've got arrogance, and there's always money involved. It's government, and it's just corruption. You know, we've got a Pentagon that everybody's just rushing to throw. They ask for so much money every year, and we give them more. They've got they get audited every year, and they're out of compliance over $1 billion, and nobody slaps their hand. You know, everybody knows we're not going to fight wars like we did in the Second World War. The Japanese aren't going to bomb Pearl Harbor, and we got 6 months to get ramped up, and we roll out across the islands in the Pacific, and we roll across Europe. It's going to be, it's going to be very little of that. We're not going to need flat tops to land aircraft carriers, but yet they keep pushing for this money. And that's exactly what they're doing with this. They're leaking out enough information, so there's going to be concern. And one of the senators is already opening up, has some amendment on the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, to provide some UFO study BS. And the reality is, just release the files. Like I told them last night on Fox News, just release the files. Let us decide what's going on with it. Let us decide what the truth is. And just quit with all the nonsense. It's just ridiculous. And And they'll ride this out. They'll ruin somebody's career. This guy who's the whistleblower, they're already attacking him, and and they're questioning his credibility. And to me, it's just ridiculous. Get them all in here. Let's put them under oath. Let's start asking them questions and what they know and where this stuff is and who knows. And then we'll start subpoenaing people. And if they refuse to come in, we cut their money off. That's the way it should work. But we have no guts. Congress is impotent. All they're doing, we bow and scrape for the war pimps on Ukraine. And if you come out against any wasteful spending, everybody says, "Oh, you're pro-Russia," and that's the legacy media, and frankly, a lot of conservatives say that, and they're just flat out wrong. We're throwing money at stuff left and right. We don't have the money. We're flat broke, and and government just continues down this path.
Look, great conversation. I know you've got to run off to a meeting, but I appreciate you spending some time with us this afternoon. Enjoyed you last night on Jesse Waters, and we'll talk again very soon, Tim. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. I know Tim Burchett had to run off to a 3:30 Eastern time meeting that he had, probably with some sort of alien life form or someone suggesting that they are prettier than him in the halls of Congress. It's 2:31 on Super Talk News Time.
.231, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 89 degrees on Music Row. A dry night ahead, but tomorrow night, storms will welcome us this week. Full weather forecast in just a couple minutes. Moscow responding to the announced U.S. move to supply Ukraine with cluster bombs. Here's more from Tom Rivers.
Russian Defense Minister Shoigu says his side will be forced to use similar weapons against Ukrainian forces. That could mean the eastern part of the country could be awash in the deadly ordnance for decades to come. On the counteroffensive, he says Ukraine has not achieved any of its goals. In one push in Luhansk, he claims Ukraine lost up to 90 personnel, 3 Leopard tanks, and 6 Bradley fighting vehicles.
And as confirmed today at the NATO summit, Ukraine will soon become a member of NATO. Crime in Tennessee, a man was charged with public intoxication and furthered his punishment by spitting into Putnam County's officer's face. The man did not become violent until arriving at the jail. This deputy will now have to attend checkups for the next year to make sure he did not receive any diseases from the man. And that man remains in jail with an August 7th court date. And in politics news, Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama doubled down on his defense of white nationalists while speaking to reporters today on Capitol Hill. Jay O'Brien has more.
Senator Tommy Tuberville asked by reporters why he's refused to denounce white nationalists and continues to call them Americans despite their racist views. Pressed by ABC's Rachel Scott.
And if the Democrats want to say that white nationalists are racist, I'm totally against that too.
But that's not a Democratic definition. The definition of a white nationalist is someone...
My definition.
It is the definition.
Tuberville also in the spotlight for a procedural hold he's placed on all military nominations, stalling an estimated 260 senior officer nominations in the Senate.
And Tuberville says he's holding up those nominations because of his objections to the Pentagon's abortion policy. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
If you're feeling sluggish or run down and you don't know why, and you're a guy, I have a solution, or at least the beginning of a solution, and it's a telephone call to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Gentlemen, I know you don't want to think about, bedroom issues. I know that that's a private matter, and you'd prefer to keep that to yourself. I understand that, but there's no shame in this game, right? Half of men listening to me right now will at some point over their lives have some form of issue like this. And what if I told you that there was a telephone number that you could dial There was a company, an organization dedicated to solving this issue, dedicated to solving the issue of low energy or a low libido, dedicated to getting you back to energy, motivation, and a drive in all facets of your life, whether it's going to the gym, doing yard work, or whatever it might be. That's what the Tennessee Men's Clinic does on a day-to-day basis. They will bring you in, give you a complete evaluation for less than $100. They'll take some blood work. They'll get some of those blood samples back. They'll go over the findings, and then they can develop a plan of action that is guaranteed to succeed. They specialize in men's health. It's what they do at Tennessee Men's Clinic. And now 2 locations to serve you. They've long had one in Nashville in Midtown, and now they've opened up a location in Franklin. So for those of you south of my voice, why not stop by that location? Schedule an appointment to either today by going to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or 615-208-9090. 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic.
I've added an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to declassify all things about UFOs and UAPs, because if they don't exist, then why are they hiding them? And if they do exist, why don't we know about it?
That is Congressman Tim Burchett from last night's interview with Jesse Waters. We just had a good 10-minute interview with Tim regarding his belief that the American government is hiding things from the American people with regard to unidentified flying objects, and more specifically, extraterrestrial life that has either crashed or landed here on planet Earth. Now, every man is entitled to his own opinion. But this begs the question, do you believe that there was ever extraterrestrial life that visited planet Earth?
They came light years to visit us, but it was that last 30,000 feet that they just couldn't manage.
You know, Bel Kay and I, we were talking about this in anticipation of our conversation with Tim Burchett. And I like Tim a lot, and I understand that smart people can disagree on something like this, but I have a difficult time believing that alien life forms somewhere on a distant planet or whatever, they have such an advanced technology to our own that they have overcome the barricades that present themselves in front of us anytime we talk about traveling these impossible to imagine long distances in outer space. And they overcome the light years of technology that have to be there and the literal light years that they have to traverse. And then they finally get here to what is surely in their eyes a primitive planet with ape-like we are apes to them. If apes. I mean, concerning their level of technology and what it would have to be in order for them to get here versus ours, we are primitive to say the least, man. And they would allow our gravitational pull to stymie them in whatever effort they've engaged in to either communicate with us or to destroy us. I mean, the very suggestion that they would be of a similar size to us is stupid in and of itself. Can we not conceptualize that maybe there are creatures from other planets, but they're really small or really big for that matter? Why would they be our size? Why would they?
Like Land of the Giants. Remember that TV show?
Yes, I remember that television show.
We were really tiny. They were giants.
I remember the television movie that freaked me out. It's the one where the guy has cancer and they have to get really small to. Is it Fantastic Voyage?
Yeah, Fantastic Voyage.
Where they went inside the guy?
Yeah, they go in the little ship and they shrink him down. And
they have to fight things in there. Like they have to fight off the white blood cells that are trying to kill them.
I actually have that saved on my watch later list on YouTube.
Have you seen it?
Yes. It's awesome.
It's an awesome film.
Saw it when I was a kid. Fascinated me.
So imagine you're a kid and you know your mom has brain cancer, which I did. And I was determined to get my mother to whoever needed to see her in order to get those people inside of my mama to take care of my mama's brain cancer.
You were how old?
I mean, I was 5 when mama had brain cancer.
So that made perfect sense to you. Would be,
6 years old? I mean, it's got to be real, right? It's on television. So if they could do it there, they could do it with my mama, and they could save my mama's life. So, Fantastic Voyage. Absolutely fabulous movie. And they're shooting a little pew, 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 shooting little lasers. Love
and for the times, I mean, you look back now, it's ridiculous, but the special effects were pretty good at the time.
Right, just the matter of being inside the human body.
Yeah.
And
getting attacked by a white blood cell or
5542 notes that Inner Space is a modern kind of retelling. That's with Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. I think that's right. And I want to say 5542, correct me if I'm wrong, was Meg Ryan in that? Inner Space was where Dennis Quaid was like some sort of a type of astronaut. And if I remember the plot line correct, he had to go inside of Martin Short, but then he could still communicate with Martin. Like he went to his ear and implanted something in his ear or something or another, giving him the ability to communicate with Martin Short.
A scientifically miniaturized Marine unexpectedly finds himself floating around in the body of a hypochondriac.
Yeah, Martin Short.
Trying to outwit saboteurs.
I think he sneezed him out at one point or another. So,
and yes, Meg Ryan was in that.
Oh, there you go. Before Meg Ryan became weird. And you all know exactly what I'm talking about. 6943 writes, I believe in the Bible and Jesus Christ. The only way I could believe it is that Jesus Christ is known there as well, but none of that is in the Bible. Well, I understand that, for some of us, it is our religious faith precludes us from believing in entities beyond our own earth. Hey, this is Sterling. It could be the CIA or some government agency actually created the UFOs to create hysteria. I feel like they would have leaked it more if that was the case. Kathy harkens back to our Mount Rushmore conversation, saying, Matt, Mount Rushmore hasn't been the same since the Superman villains changed the faces. And I responded by saying, or I actually mistakenly said Jimmy Stewart, or Cary Grant. I mean, wasn't it Cary
Vertigo?
Grant?
Is it Vertigo?
No, that's I thought it was North by Northwest.
Is it? I can't remember.
It was a Hitchcock. And, they wouldn't let Hitchcock was going to sneak. Do you know this fun fact? Hitchcock filmed at the Welcome Center, did not ask the government for permission to film on the faces.
Good for him.
And then went and tried to film on the faces, and they shut him down.
Ugh.
And wouldn't allow him to do it. So he had to recreate the faces on a soundstage somewhere.
I like him even better.
But I like the idea of just to hell with it. Let's just ask forgiveness and not permission to be done with
especially of the government.
And by the way, some of you that are calling me out on the whole rubble thing, good gracious. I think our government's just being lazy. I'm told by people that have been to Mount Rushmore that their lazy excuse for not cleaning up the debris that they caused was because of erosion. Erosion?
Erosion of the rubble or erosion of the statues?
Erosion of the earth, I guess, underneath the statues, and that the rock formations that they created somehow prevent. That's weak sauce, man.
Yeah,
those rocks weren't down there before.
Right. Yeah.
And there was no erosion.
Yeah, limestone is one of the few that's going to erode last.
Yeah. I mean, right in front of probably granite, which is why Stone Mountain will be here.
Yeah.
A gajillion years from now. And all of those Confederate generals on it will be here a gajillion years from now.
Yeah, we'll have blown them up by then because, it's racism.
Oh, they're already talking about doing that. They're trying to figure out a way to blow the faces off without actually cracking the mountain itself. And they can't really figure it out. Maybe there's a good suggestion. 7709 says maybe the rubble of Mount Rushmore is covering up evidence of the UFOs. See, now we're starting to think outside of the box a little bit. And 0960 says, I'm under the impression God created the heavens and the earth. It's ego to think that we're all that there is. Well, without efforting too much to delve into a theological discussion about the possibility of extraterrestrial life, I believe that there is extraterrestrial life. And I think it's pretty well established that some of that existed on, for example, Mars, because where there's water, there would be amoeba style, or the possibility exists for there to be amoeba style life. Yes, God did create the heavens and the earth, and God, through his grace, gave man the ability to understand certain aspects of this and to write it down in what became the Holy Bible written by man, inspired by God. Now, I don't pretend to be a theologian on this or any other front, but I would say that God probably only divined to man that which he wished man to know, and the possibilities of extraterrestrial life, I don't believe, are precluded by the existence of the Holy Bible, even if you are a Bible believer. Heather might have a different perspective out of Nashville. Heather, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. So, yeah, I agree what you just said about, we don't know what we don't know out there that God has created. There's, you look at our solar system and all the rest of them, there could be many out there. But also, I just recently watched something on Prime that was called The Lost Century, and it was all about inventions over the last 100 years that have, defied the logic that we know on gas-powered engines and all of that, sort of self-propelled off of either magnetic power or kinetic energy and things that would change the world. And but patents have been bought and things have been hidden. People have been killed. I don't know. I haven't done my research to know how truthful this program was, called The Lost Century, but very interesting and mind-provoking things, and inventors, showing what they had done, through the last 100 years. So it's worth a watch.
What is it called again, Heather?
The Lost Century.
The Lost Century.
The title is saying that we've lost a whole century worth of development that we could have done because some of these things were discovered that long ago, in the 20s and the 30s.
I hear
Very
you.
interesting.
No, that's incredible. I'll look it up. I've written it down. I will look it up. Thank you, Heather. Winding down this fun final hour of the Matt Murphy Show. Matt, UFOs are not from outside the world. It is our skunk works. Really smart to make everybody believe they're from another planet, right? While you're working on a new technology from Skunk Works. Speaking as a veteran, I don't know what Skunk Works are.
It's basically the encompassing term for black ops and programs you don't want the public to know about.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Which I agree with them. I think a ton of that stuff is basically black ops and skunk works and top secret materials they don't want to discuss.
And then the same person, the same super texter on 4963 writes, Matt, it wasn't the government at Mount Rushmore. It was one man and his family over the years and years of work. The government did not create the faces and debris. I'm fine with just leaving it there. I think you're confusing two different rock formations and sculptures in South Dakota. What is the one called that is is it Sitting Bull?
I think so, yeah.
I think it's Sitting Bull. That was just one guy, and nobody told that one guy that someone else had help. Mount Rushmore and the National Memorial that surrounds it is a massive sculpture carved into the Black Hills region of South Dakota, completed in 1941 under the direction of Gutzon Borgum and his son Lincoln. The sculpture's roughly 60-foot high granite faces depict U.S. Presidents Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln. But he also had considerable help and funding from the federal government of the United States of America. The gentleman that did Sitting Bull did not have similar funding. And it was
that's
just
still
him.
not even finished.
No,
is
it's
it?
not. When they still he wants him on a horse, and they've only got his face done, and he's got his arm. He wants like an arm or an arrow pointing, like, "Hey, they stole all this land from us. Go get them." That kind of thing. I think that's what they plan on him saying. Like you can press one of those little buttons that says "press here." Hey, they stole all our land from us. Go get them. Not a moment too soon. My time is up. It's 2:52 on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the Drive coming up.
Additional information on a pedophilic Franklin soccer coach. More aid on its way to Ukraine from NATO. A standoff near BNA yesterday, and a jury seated today that could decide a former president's fate. That and more coming up at 3. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is just before 3 o'clock right now. We'll hear from Mac Morey momentarily, and Brian Wilson in the drive coming up after that. The Indian depicted in the monument under construction for the last 75 years is Crazy Horse. It's not Sitting Bull. It's Crazy.
Excuse you, that's mentally disturbed horse.
Oh, pardon me. That's true. It's a mentally different horse. We call
Disturbed.
Him? Okay. There's a horse involved in this statue too. It looks rather ambitious. It only took 75 years to make the face, so another 175 years to go, and we'll be done. Somebody needs to tell that guy that the other people had help, because he doesn't seem to understand that. Brian Wilson, he's my help. He's up with the drive next on Super Talk.